Hi everybody, Eugene here with Darkroom Software. In this quick video, we are going to learn how to apply what I'm going to call an effect, but we're talking about a black and white or a grayscale or a desaturated image. And there's three different ways we're going to talk about how to do this. So the first one would be using the grayscale option that's been built in. You can add it to a screen button or to the left mouse click, so when you touch the screen it starts. Second one we're going to talk about is a filter. So using a filter you can adjust some of the settings within the effect, and those would actually apply to the live view, so that's kind of nice. Those options would include contrast, saturation, exposure, those type of things. And then third, we're going to talk about using a droplet, which I think is a little bit more complicated than most people need, but for those that want to use the power of Photoshop, you can use a droplet. Now we're not going to build an action, but we will convert an action into a droplet so you can see some of the issues that you might run into and how to avoid them. So let's go ahead and pump up the music and get started. Okay, so the first on the list is adding just a simple grayscale effect. And there are a few different ways to do that. The easiest would be using the controls menu. If you're using a just touch to start event style, you would go right here, and instead of start session, you can set it to apply grayscale and then start the photo session. So when they touch the screen, it'll automatically switch to grayscale and start. So that's the easiest way to set that option. I went ahead and canceled it because we're going to do it just a slightly, we're going to give a better option maybe. And so I have my screen template and I'm going to edit it. I have a start button here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that start button by clicking Control V or Control C, Control V, and now I have a start button, a second start button. I'm going to change that to be grayscale, and I am going to give the option to toggle between color and black and white. So I'm going to say color, black and white. Hopefully it fits the text. Okay. So now when you start the session, you can click between color and black and white. And you just click this button, and then when you're ready, you click the start button. So there are a few different options. There's a video out on adding buttons to screen templates that go a little bit more in depth on what you can do with your buttons. You might want to have a color and start button and then a black and white and start button. So you just click it and it starts the session in black and white or in color. So, but that is the simple version of adding a grayscale effect to your images or to a session. Okay, so the next on the list is going to be filters. So we're going to click edit, and it runs along the same lines, but right here we have a grayscale and start. I'm sorry, grayscale and toggle, not in start. We can use apply filter and then click choose, and then have a let's say black and white beauty filter, and then we'll start after the session because this is more along the lines of the black and white and start rather than a toggle switch. We'll go ahead and change that text. And then we'll duplicate that. If we have a black and white and start button, then we probably need a color and start. So we'll go to apply filter again, and then we'll do the color beauty and start after So now it's automatically going to apply the filter and then start the session, so we no longer need our start button. So go ahead and delete that and save it and see how that looks. So let's say that was a little bit too contrasty for you and maybe a little bit too dark. You can go into the filters and create your own. Okay, so the filters are going to be stored in your X drive, on my X drive, and then I'm looking for filters. And there are a few that are built in, but one thing I like to do is the black and white beauty light. I'm gonna double click on that, and the exposure is set to -1, which is a little bit dark for me, so I'm gonna change it to 0.5. That's gonna add a half step of exposure or brightness. And the filter at -2 is fine. The contrast at 1.1, once again, is a little bit high for my personal taste, so I'm going to go with a negative contrast of 0.5. We'll say 0.5. Okay, and then we're going to save it as a new effect. Okay, and click save, and now you can see it's been added to my filters. So we can close that and go to choose, or click edit. Now under my black and white button, I'm gonna go apply filter, choose, select Eugene, black and white, and it should now use my updated filter with the updated settings. So we'll start it up and see if we can see a little bit of a difference. See, you can see it's just a little bit brighter, and the contrast is not, it's just not as contrasty. So that is using filters, updating and editing the filters. The last on the list and the more complicated of the three options is going to be droplets. So I have a droplet saved. I like to save them in my X drives. That's not the default place, but I created a folder called droplets. And what a droplet is an executable file. It's essentially a program that when an image is dropped on it, Photoshop then opens that image and processes it. So one thing we can do, the first thing that you want to do is test your droplet. So I am going to find an image that I can test it on. We'll select this one, copy, and you can save the image anywhere, but just so it's easier to find, I'm actually going to save it to the droplets folder. So what should happen is you drop the image on the droplet, it then processes and closes. It has to open, process, and then save and close the image. And now whenever you view the image, it should have that effect applied. So that's the first step in using a droplet. Every time, test it just to make sure it works the way it's supposed to. If it's not saving and closing, you'll want to look at your action. Let's go to Photoshop. You can see here's the action we're using, and the last steps are save and close. So to turn an action into a droplet, you can go to File, automate, and then create droplet. And we'll give this one a new name. It's the exact same thing as the other one, but just so you can see how it creates the file. And so there's a new droplet. They do the exact same thing, but I just wanted to show you. Always make sure you test it. And then what we're going to do is go into Darkroom Booth and apply a droplet to a print template or an output template. So one other option we didn't talk about earlier with the black and white or grayscale effect, you can also, instead of having it on the actual session, you can also apply the effect via this output template. And that's how you apply a droplet. So we can click on droplet, click edit, and then in my droplets folder, I'm gonna click save. So the thing about droplets is it's not going to apply to the live view because it's on the output template. It's only going to apply whenever the image is actually processed. But let's give it a shot. Let's start the session. Oh, I'm going to click the spacebar because my spacebar is just going to start the session. It's not going to apply any of these additional effects. I forgot to remove and just add a start button, but the spacebar should work as start. So you can see no effect has actually been applied to the image yet. So now it's going to go ahead and process the image, and then I can see on my other screen Photoshop is actually being opened and processing. So let's see if it's updated. Oh, there it goes. So that was my virtual printer. So now when we exit and go to prints, you can see here is the image that we did earlier with the filter, and here is the second image that was processed with a droplet. You'll see that there's a little bit of difference. There's still a little bit of color in here, and the shadows are blue. Just some of the things that you can do within Photoshop that you can't necessarily do with the effects in Darkroom. So that is 3 different ways to apply an effect using the grayscale option, a filter, or if you prefer, a droplet. Now remember, you do need Photoshop installed on the computer to use a droplet, so that is one thing to keep in mind. I will be sure to add that droplet that we created to the knowledge base article so that you can go ahead and download it, try it out. Maybe it'll help you troubleshoot building your own droplets, and I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching. Here are a couple of videos that YouTube thinks that you might enjoy. Be sure to like, subscribe, but more importantly, if there's something you want to learn a little bit more about, comment below this video and I'll do my best to add it as a future video. I'll see you in the next one.